Oh, it's so wonderful to see you again. Come in and unwind. Welcome back to the Celestial Cafe, a podcast for the magical mind.
So come, take a seat. Would you like something sweet? A star drop potion for the soul? Maybe an enchanted eclair as a treat?
I just baked a batch of warm cookies with a dash of moonlight. I wonder what will happen if you take a little bite.
Here is your bewitching beverage. Let each sip melt your worries away. It's time to open your mind. I wonder what magic awaits us today.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Celestial Cafe. I am one of your hosts, Doogsley. I'm here joined today by Panthera. This is our first two-person episode. This is very exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Long overdue, I feel. And yeah, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Fae. Just everything about Fae, about the folklore, about how to get in touch with the Fae. If there's even any Fae in your area that you can call today and hang out with.
1-800, call the Fae today.
Get in contact with them ASAP. Wow, I just punched my mic. I mean, that's how excited I am. And yeah, before we get into the meat of this episode, there's a few things I'd like to announce first. First of all, once again, thank you to all of our patrons that have been supporting us. We are eagerly putting out new and exciting Patreon smorgasbord tchotchke for all of you in the next couple days. Actually, it'll actually be before this episode comes out. I'm going to be putting up a Fae reading, sort of in celebration of this episode. So I have a few Fae Oracle decks. I have like the Fairy Oracle with Brian Froud, someone I'm excited to talk about today. Got the Forest Fae Oracle too, really cute, really tiny deck, and some other things that I think you can.
And just so you guys know too, anytime you join the Patreon, you get access to all the previous posts as well too, so you don't get to miss out on any of the goodies. You get the crystal posts that I did of crystals that work well with the moon. You get tarot readings from the past that we've done. I think you did a love letter to Pisces that's kind of talking about the astrological side of things. So many goodies in there just waiting for you.
Yes. Yeah, it's always a joy to go through. Lots of beautiful magic from all four of the hosts on there. Another thing that's really cool that we just discovered is that Spotify, so shout out to our Spotify listeners, now has a video podcast option. So all the videos that we've been recording for our YouTube will also be able to be viewed on Spotify. Pretty cool. We were pretty excited to find out about that, and I hope that other podcast platforms start to catch up. And Panthera also has something that she would like to talk about regarding the archive of our episodes.
Yeah, so if you've been listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Stitcher, you may have noticed that when you try to scroll back through to maybe some older episodes, that they were only the most 10 recent episodes available. We have since noticed and fixed that. So the entire archive is available of all of our episodes back to the very first one that we did for podcasts. So definitely check it out. There's some really good ones back there. How we all found our spiritual paths, our tarot episode, how to start shadow work, cord cuttings, so many good ones. So definitely go back and let us know what you think about those episodes.
Cool. Yes, that's important. We didn't realize that was not happening. Yeah, and speaking of video on Spotify, apparently my video's fucking up, but hopefully you can enjoy all 5 pixels of me as we talk about Fae. Should be good.
Of course, your video is like perfect right now.
Oh, is it? Awesome. Wonderful. So maybe I'll go in and out of the veil as the Fae do.
It's the fairies interrupting. Veil. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, hold up. Oh man, that's actually funny to think about. But anyway, yeah, so that's our spiel. That's our intro. Are you ready to talk about Fae?
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay. So I think just like maybe a little bit of background for our listeners, but you've worked with the Fae for a very long time now, right?
Yeah, I mean, since I was a kid. Like, I've lived, so I'm currently like living at my childhood home, and right down the street from me, there's a lake, and then across from the lake, there's a big forest clearing, and I would just spend so much time there growing up, like sleeping in the moss and just like doing little kid stuff like skipping rocks on the lake and in the river and swinging from vines and stuff like that, and picking flowers. And I spent a lot of time in that area growing up, and I've had very Fae experiences there, and I have a repertoire with, if not Fae, then like the local forest, you know, that I am spending time in, which to me is Fae. And the way that they've come through is very Fae-like, very mischievous. I joke, and I've joked on here before, like, you know, I'm indebted to them for like my next 7 lifetimes and stuff like that. Like, I've done everything wrong because I got into Fae as a kid, but I think
mean, what do you do? Like, how do you know better if, like, and it's not like American culture is very like centered around respecting the Fae either. Like a lot of other cultures overseas kind of are. Like,
yeah, no, that's very true, actually. Like, and who better to trick than a little kid? And who better to bamboozle than little 5-year-old Doogsley wandering through the forest? But like, you know, a repertoire has been built, offerings have been given, and we have a pretty symbiotic relationship. Me and I'll probably use the term the forest or the Fae interchangeably. Yeah. And like, because to me, it's like one and the same. They're operating on this like very Gaian level, and
they're definitely like spirits very heavily tied to nature at the very least. Like, just very interesting. So I guess I personally don't currently work with the Fae, but I do work with like local land spirits and things like that. Some of which I think there might be a lot of overlap. I don't know. I'm kind of like, this is one thing I would like to discuss today. I think later on we're going to kind of talk about like what are the Fae and the categories of the Fae and what makes a Fae. Some of them, I'm not sure, like if some of them there might be no overlap, some of them there might be complete overlap. So that's the one topic I'm interested in discussing tonight, and for sure.
It's going to be interesting too, because all of my Fae knowledge is very layman. It's very just my experience. Like I've never picked up a book on Fae and been like, what am I experiencing? This is just like, all the verbiage I'm going to be using is probably just words that I've come up with and experiences I've discussed. So I'm interested to hear the overlap with what you've studied, because you and have...
I do a lot of book. Yeah, I do a lot of research. I kind of this is where perfectionism is helpful, but also it kicks me a little bit because I tend to research things like for hours and hours and hours before I even like touch it physically. Right. So I've done a lot of research on them and everything for sure. And like, I don't know, Fae myths and like folklore is just so fascinating to me. It is. I'm all about mythology. I love it. So, cool. But I guess so let's get started with like, what is a Fae? Like, how would you define what a fairy spirit is?
Something I've never done out loud, I don't think, is explain that. So in my experience, the Fae have shown up as protectors of the land that they're on. They are very devoted to nature, very devoted to their clans, their houses. They are spirits that sort of intermingle in between the veils, and likes to do a lot of quantum leaping between our existence and their existence, which is happening at the same time. And
they definitely seem to be like, this is definitely a reoccurring theme amongst like all cultures across the globe, really. What kind of sets them apart seems to be that they have kind of like a home realm, or like you say like across the veil. I'm a D&D player, so for me it's like count across planes, right?
No,
the Feywild. That's definitely like a common theme that I've noticed more with the Fae versus like other types of spirits and stuff, where like it almost seems like there is a barrier, and for some of them they might be in like the same other area, but for some of them it doesn't seem to be the same other area. I don't know. It's definitely like interesting. Like where are they? Like, and the descriptions of kind of this fairy plane from like folklore and stories and things like that is definitely fascinating. So that's definitely like a theme I've noticed with a lot of the Fae stories, is this trying to trick you or lure you into this other realm kind of a thing.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of mischievousness happening in the Fae realms, and they especially love to fool humans. I mean, we're so gullible and hopeful, and did I really see that? And questioning, and they like. They're mercurial. They like to entrance us and beguile us and make us
enchanters for sure.
Yeah, they like to, because they're investigatory. That's a new word. They're curious, and I think that not every human it depends on where you're going. If you're gonna be stomping through Faeland, then they're gonna do everything they can to kind of poke your sides and make you jump and make you sort of Wonderland-esque, like, wait, what direction am I walking? That kind of stuff, you know? I thought I was going in one direction. Turns out I did like a 180 and going the other way, you know, stuff like that.
Trickster personalities for sure. And that's one thing. It's like, I wonder, like, how it is from their perspective a little bit, but is it purely just for fun on their side of things? Like, is this how, like, you know, instead of Netflix they have let's go mess with humans kind of a thing, or like I don't know, like, or is it more of like we're invading and that's their way of fighting back almost, like, in a way?
I think it's a little of everything. I do think it's a defense mechanism, because they know how fragile the human mind is, and they know they can mess with it. They know that they can optical illusion their way through an intruder. But I also think that they beckon sometimes. They're like, come here. Let me show you this forbidden fruit, like, sort of activity, right? And it's so dependent upon what kind of fae you meet, though.
Yeah, and then so that actually leads me kind of into the next, like, thing that I think that characterizes fae is they always seem to be involving themselves in human affairs, whether for like beneficial means or more nefarious means. But the name or the word fairy actually comes from the Latin fata, which I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but Fata, which means fate. So gets that kind of terminology from interacting and like influencing the fate of mortals and humans such as ourselves, which I think is very like fascinating. They're very heavily associated with luck, both good luck and bad luck.
I'm not surprised to hear that, like the association with luck. And it's funny because I've been so intertwined in the fae existence for so long, and one thing I've always attributed to myself is luck. I've always felt super lucky in life, and I've constantly feel the presence of fae around me. I don't know, maybe they all told their friends that I'm like cool. I feel like I'm constantly being guarded and guided by this otherworldly magic, and I do think that, and of course, just like with humans, just like with any other creature, there are some fae that are like super interested in humans. There are some fae that don't give a single hoot and will just stay away. In fact, I mean, just like with humans, there's all different types of fae and behaviors and temperaments. Like, but I think all of them are ultimately curious, is I think the big word, like in some way, shape, or form. And at least the ones in my area and the ones that I grew up with, the ones that of course are the most common in my life, those are the ones that reached out to me first, and I'm the one that keeps feeding them whipped cream, and so they keep coming back, for better or for worse. But yeah, luck, good luck, bad luck, I believe that there's every now and again, I mean, like, who hasn't had the weird situation where you feel the brush upon the shoulder or the tug of the skirt or the the lifting of the hair.
So that's one thing that's so interesting, like here, at least in the United States, is things like that are almost always associated with the paranormal more than like fairies. Whereas over in Europe, it's very heavily associated with like fairies in particular. So I think this is a question that I hear very often that I think maybe we should cover is, do you believe that the fairies exist outside of Europe and Ireland and kind of, you know, where there's those famous kind of stories coming from?
Yeah, and I have thought about this before because, like, since a kid, I've been using the word fairies, and then I heard the discussion of, like, wait, but they're over the pond, and I'm like, wait, but, I mean, they're travelers, they're mercurial, they want to move, they want to schmoove. Who says that a fae hasn't caught a plane before? Who says a fae hasn't been on a boat and came over here and made their own little fae colony? You know, like, to me, it's, and spirits, the veil is not limited to one area, you know, like, I think that it could even be a thing where, like, 2 steps, it's like the nether in Minecraft. You take 2 steps in the nether and it's like 100 feet here.
Oh, interesting. Like hyperspace or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny because I was just saying before the podcast started, like, a lot of this stuff I don't think I've ever really talked about out loud. It's just been like this knowing and this understanding and this magic in my head for so long. I'm already feeling like, I don't know, there's like so many mirrors to, it's so funny, I'm struggling to find words. Like I never even thought about the supernatural thing before. That makes a lot of sense, wherein and we've talked about on the Samhain episode, I believe, where I'm like, are ghosts not fae? Question mark.
I think that comes down to like whether or not you believe fae are human in nature, right? Whereas ghosts are very clearly like derived from human. At least what we believe is ghosts and like the spirits of humans that have passed, right? So that is where like, can fae be human? Or like where like this could get really existential too, but like, do we believe necessarily that the planes wherever ghosts are, if we let's just say that everything is real just for the sake of this argument. Does the plane that ghosts are from and then able to interact in here the same as the plane that the fairies are able to from and interact in here is the same as angels? Where are they from and can interact in here? Or demons, or, you know, whatever, like spiritual beings that we're talking, deities, whatever you want to talk about? Or do we believe that it's, I'm going to reference D&D again because that's what I know and love. But in D&D, it's kind of, there are just multiple different planes kind of encompassing around the world in different layers almost. So there's ones that are very close to the world, which their fae world is one that's like right on the other side, basically. It's very easy to connect with. Whereas then like the elemental planes are a step further, and then the deity planes are a step further. So they're more difficult to cross over, kind of a thing, but they're still able to kind of influence.
Wow.
So cosmology. Ooh, I love it.
It's got to be somewhere in between all that. To me, I always considered it a case of density in vibration. We vibrate very fast, very heavily, very dense, and I think that fae have a lighter vibration. And less density. And I think that these mythical creatures can increase and decrease their density
to kind of maneuver through areas that we ourselves can't, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times too, like we only have 5 senses, really. Like, so who knows what other who knows what other like creatures or beings could have and be able to influence and see and whatever. Like there's even just animals that we know of who, you know, sharks can sense and fish in general can sense like electromagnetic pulses through the water. Like that's how they through their lateral lines. So it's like, who knows like what else could exist out there? Have you seen, there's a TikTok video, and I'll have to like, maybe I'll post in the Discord afterwards, but it's this woman describing like a 2D being interacting with a 3D being in just a way that we can comprehend, and using it to explain how maybe 4D or 5D beings are like interacting with us. But so they've got like a little stick person like drawn on a chalkboard, and they've got like an item in the box, and you know the person on the stick person can't necessarily like move the item out of the box, right? Because it's in a 2D space, but we're able to like pick up the item, move it in our 3D space and move it out of the box. So it was just like, or we can like flip them like sideways and backwards, and they don't even have any like concept of how they moved 3D, even though they're a 2-dimensional being. So I don't know, it was just really fascinating. I'll post them in the Discord once this episode goes live. But it makes you think a little bit sometimes.
And I think that keyword there is comprehension. Like I can't even begin to comprehend what a 4D, 5D, 6D and onward space could be, what it could represent. Like it is completely outside my realm of understanding. It's interesting.
Yeah, it makes you think. I just love anything that like, I'm going to shake your worldview a little bit. They shake it up from there.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of covers what we were talking about, like where the Fae are from. We talked about like if they're here or not. So I guess my opinion on whether or not Fae are like inherently in North America or so on. I think that the Fae are all over the world.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They gotta be, right?
I think that just people have different names for them, but it's like kind of like dragons. It's like, how is it possible that so many different like cultures all over the globe have names for these things and developed around the same period of time? But we have like, you know, the Native American Algonquins, the Iroquois. They had essentially like the little people. The Aztecs had the Trinket, or those who dwell in dangerous places. We've got the good people of both Scotland and the Wolof people of West Africa, like the same name in 2 different languages for 2 different complete places. Like I don't know, it's so interesting to me. Like all across oceans, like that we have these same ideas, and they all kind of follow that same pattern. Like the good people, the hidden people, like they all have very similar names and are very heavily associated with trickery, luring others, very heavily associated with luck and like influencing people.
Oh yeah.
And shape-shifting is also another big one.
Yeah, and luck too. Like I think about like the leprechaun in Ireland and stuff. It's so funny. Yeah. Being so involved in the world, it's just things I've never really thought about before. Yeah. It's interesting.
It is. It's so like fun. Like I just love it when it's like puzzle pieces and like everything's kind of like it clicks together when you think about it. And I love it when like things all come together, or like, you know, the puzzle of like how all these different people have these similar stories, and like what did they all influence that might be, you know, the same kind of lead you to the same tales and the same stories and the same myths and legends in those same areas. So it's very, very interesting.
No, I agree. And I think one thing that all those places had in common were, and I think that this is sort of something that is connected to Fae and seeing Fae as well, which is psychedelics. I think that the veil becomes very thin on psychedelics. And I think that can be a thing that allowed them to get better in touch with their Fae in that area. And they're always tiny. they're quite small. There are of course huge ones too, sizes of trees, bigger than trees you could ever imagine. But I mean, the average Fae, they like to be snug. They like to be they like little closed spaces. They also want big open spaces, but I think to rest and to nest, they like little areas.
For sure. Yeah. There definitely seems to be kind of categories of Fae. Like even like looking through the different cultures and what kind of like spirits they have. There's like little winged like pixies is kind of like what we would call them, right? Or just like small people in general. Then we have like the tall, beautiful like elves. Very like kind of like the Norse mythology elves kind of a thing, and or like the beautiful but like tricksy like shapeshifters. We got like the kitsune in Japanese mythology and things like that, where they're going to, or the kelpie even, where they're going to take on the form of like a beautiful woman and try to lure you away. Then we have like your little creatures like your brownies and your leprechauns and your goblins, hobgoblins, red caps, like all of those kind of little, and they seem to be much more both them and the pixies kind of seem to be like very tricksy and so on, where they can be kind of malevolent or benevolent, depending on which good side of them you get them on or for that day.
They're territorial.
Which is very fascinating. Yeah.
That's and those are the ones I think who mostly trick and deceive to get you to get the hell out. I think most of all, those are the ones that are like, get out of me swamp. Like,
yeah, get out of my swamp.
they've been on this realm for far too long to have a meddling human get in their way, you know, and ruin all the hard work they've done, like nurturing the roots of these trees in this field, you know.
And then we have like the plant side of things too, right? We've got the dryads, we've got the spriggans, and a lot of fae do tend to be very like location based. Like it makes me think of like the nymphs of like ancient Greece, where they would often like be associated with a very particular like river, or like you know, they're like the spirit of the water of that particular body of water, or dryads associated with a particular tree.
And so, that lines up
very
with
fascinating.
Me. That lines up in my experiences too, because I can tell when I'm in Faeland. I can tell when there's fae afoot, and I can tell when there's no fae afoot. I can tell if fae were here at one point but aren't anymore. You know, there's just like little tells. Like, I mean, the famous one is fairy circle with mushrooms, which, by the way, like I've been so deep in mushroom lore lately. I'm like, I'm lost in the mushroom sauce right now. It's so fascinating. And
maybe we'll just have to do an episode about mushrooms in general, one episode, because I would love to just talk about mushrooms.
Like, and after reading and studying what I've been studying with mushrooms are totally fae. I'm not like
just how they communicate with each other is so fascinating to me. Like they literally have like communication networks. Like it's insane.
The mycelium network is just I can't even begin to wrap my head around it.
Insane in the membrane.
They are just like in the same realm. I don't know. Like I read once like the earth laughs in flowers, and then someone else mused afterwards. They're like, okay, if the earth laughs in flowers, then it must like,
what are mushrooms?
Yeah, they must be like scheming with mushrooms.
Like, definitely a trick, right? Like mushrooms are tricksy in and of themselves. Very interesting, which makes sense why fairies would love them so much, right?
Yeah,
we've got like the fairy houses and the fairy rings.
Yeah.
Fairy rings brings me to ask another question. So the typical lore of the fairy ring is that if you go into the fairy ring, right, you'll be transported to the realm of the fae. Do you believe that you could actually travel to the realm of the fae, be swept off, if you will?
Yes. But I think it's like in a high priestess way. I think that
like astrally.
Yeah. Like I'm of course like, this is from my experience, so other people might have other lived experiences from me. But can you physically go to the Fae realm? It's hard for me to say yes or no. Like it. I think in general, I think anything's possible, right? But in my experience, a lot of my communication with the Fae have been me getting drowsy in the forest and taking a sudden nap. Like where all of a sudden I'm like, I'm exhausted. I need to sleep right here. And that's when I'd have the most communication with the Fae. And it would be
very heavily like with dreams, kind of.
Yeah. With dreams, definitely. And like just even that hazy, like I woke up and the world is like a little bit like helter skelter, and
they're definitely very liminal creatures, right? So it makes sense that like in a state of like a trance state or a state of drowsiness, sleepiness, like where your brain waves start to kind of slow, that communication would be easier in those areas.
Yeah. And in those moments, I've seen fantastical things and felt soul bound and like cellularly shifted elsewhere. And it's hard to look back upon. I haven't had those experiences since I was very young. And no matter how much I try, of course, they won't just let you in if you just try really hard.
Yeah.
It's
gonna happen on its own almost.
Right. But even with like the trials and passages that they've given me over the years, like they're still very secretive. And like you mentioned earlier, like with my video messing up, you were like, oh, the Fae. It's like maybe because a part of the reason why I don't talk about them very much, and it's not like they've ever said like, don't shut up. It's just like, I don't know. They're very private. At least the ones in my experience. They've been in this land for a very, very, very long time, and they're doing a job. And they don't want to be distracted or taken away from it. And I felt like a bit of an ambassador for a little bit, like in my local forest community, just being like, help us help them, like feed the land, take care of the land, you know?
Yeah, be a steward of the land instead of somebody who harms it, right?
And I think most of the experiences I've had with Fae have been on my territory, on this ground, rather than me being spirited away to them. But yeah, that is a very common trope, and I've been asked that before. It's like, no, I've never like stepped into a fairy circle. I've been in fairy circles and felt magic occur, but like nothing as jarring.
Never
as
swept
disappearing.
away.
Yes,
didn't wake up in Outlander or anything like that.
No, oh god, me and Illidan, the original Fae.
So I think this brings us to, are they dangerous? We talked about them kind of like sweeping you away. We've talked about some of their mischievous tricks. We've even talked about like the ones who might lure you. But do you believe that, I've heard a lot of other practitioners say like beginners shouldn't work with the Fae and things like that. Do you believe that they are dangerous or beginner friendly, or how would you describe?
That's tough. Beginner friendly, no. But I do think that there's a lot of fear mongering with Fae. I do think that generally there are tons of ways to keep dangerous Fae away from you. That's the big thing. Like, and just don't poke the bear. Be respectful. Be kind. Like, don't goat them, because they will goat you. They're gonna. You think you can poke a Fae? They're gonna poke you back 20 times over. Like, that's where the danger is with the Fae. It's the taunting. It's the
fuck around and find out.
Yes. Oh my god, they invented that. You know, like just don't be a freaking bully. Don't be an asshole. Don't be that kid in the shows that are like, come fight me. Like, it's just not gonna end well. And maybe at best they're going to like make you trip on every rock you pass, every 12th step, or
oh god,
at worst they're gonna steal your family heirloom and have a bonfire over it. You know, like just don't fuck with the Fae. But to convene with them, to call to them, but also a part of respect is if they say no. And Fae know how to say no. Fae know how, if you reach out to them and you're like, hey, I want your assistance, they'll let you know pretty quickly, leave me alone. And then you respect that. But yeah, Fae, dangerous. Dangerous is a very specific word. Yeah, I mean, you can just get into some fuck shit with Fae. Once I use this word again and again and again, mercurial fuck shit. It's mind games.
Hide your car keys.
Literally, yes. Like, it's lack of balance. It's mixed up memories and not knowing which way you're going, and it's very mental games.
Every person you run into that day is a Karen.
Yeah, like stuff like that. They're really good at, like, manipulating that kind of subtle air and all it'll take is like you're going through the grocery store and the Fae follows you there and sees this irritable person, and then they'll like drop a soup can behind her and then she'll freak out on you, you know, like that kind of shit. They will definitely do, because respect them. Respect. That's all it is. Like, and that's where, and respect their nose, respect their boundaries.
Yeah. One thing I definitely noticed with like a lot of the different stories and stuff, and based on stories and folklore, yes, they are dangerous. But I mean, I think it's good to take a lot of it with a grain of salt. The world was a much scarier, intimidating place back then without electricity.
Yes.
And, you know, there were many creatures in the night. It's not as dangerous of a world for us humans anymore.
I agree with that, yeah.
Some of the, like, punishments that the Fae would give to the humans are, like, they're just, like, hilariously ironic. And, like, I don't know if it must just be, like, the type of humor, kind of, with, like, and again, with, like, the hiding your car keys, making you trip on every 12th stone or something, like, ridiculous but annoying like that. But all of them were, like, making you dance until you literally, like, die of exhaustion. Making you, you know, sit in front of a feast where no matter how much you eat, you're never satiated. Like, these kind of, like, these ironic kind of punishments where it's just very, like, fascinating to me. They definitely like their wordplay and their trickery.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the feasts. Fae food is such an important part of Fae culture, is their feasts and their large arrays of delicious and enticing and mouth-watering big pieces of bread on melted cheese with thin slices of butter. Just
imagining,
that was
like, the Studio Ghibli, like, Spirited Away feast right now.
Yes, and I think that I think that's one of the most popular Fae tropes as well. Is you eat the Fae food, you're stuck in the Fae world. And as someone who has eaten the Fae food, it's an indebtedness. Well, we were locked up after that. We were like the me and the local Fae. And that happened in, like, the dream that I had.
There's no going back per se. Like, there's no going back to not
that's a great way to put
anymore.
It. Yeah, like we were me and my little troop of creatures, beasts that I hang out with, and who I now consider friends. Took me a long time to consider them friends. I don't know if they consider me a friend, but that's okay. Like, it's some of them, yes, but most of them no. But yeah, with the Fae food, it's, I mean, and of course there's, like, other rules, like, don't give them your real name, which I've broken. And what am I supposed to do? I'm 5 years old. I'm taking naps in the forest, and what's your name? I'm Doogsley. Like, what else am I going to possibly say? I just learned my name, like, 5 days ago. I'm excited to tell you my name. Like,
there's definitely seems to be a lot of, like, a protocol around the Fae. Yeah. And they seem to have a lot of, like, rules, but also, like, loopholes for the rules. Like, one that I definitely heard the name and the don't eat the food. Another one that I've heard is to not say thank you. Like, you can't thank them for things that they do or give to you.
You don't want to be indebted to a Fae. They're just they're rule breakers. They're going to milk you of it for the rest of your life. And in ways that I've been indebted to the Fae, it's like, thank you. They're like, oh, well, since, you know, we did you a favor.
You owe me. Yeah.
What about some, and I mentioned this earlier, whipped cream. They love their whipped cream. And honey. Give it to us for, like, a couple weeks, you know? If I don't, I end up having horrible, what's the word, calibration, like, where I'm just constantly falling butterfingers. I feel like things are
your inner ear is, like, messed up, and, like,
I'm just like my inner compass is just all screwed up. I'm just, like, slightly to the left the whole time. I'm hearing noises. I'm feeling tugs. It's disorienting. And then I come and I bring them the whipped cream, and I feel much better. That's how they've usually come through for me. Has been this very subtle, like, pulling of pigtails, because I was and I think that's where I think they knew I was also, like, a little kid. So
you think that they took pity it, I guess, in a way, sort of.
Maybe. I wonder how they feel about that. I'm sure they did, because I took such good care of them, even through all the nonsense they put me through. I gave them so much, and not that they needed me either, but I loved them. I visited them all the time, and I would take naps there every day and just like lose myself in this world. And I saw magnificent things, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself though. But I think that I don't know. And for those who are wondering how to protect, let's say that you're listening to this and you're like, wow, I don't want to interact with this. Is not, I do not want to be involved in this at all. There are things in control.
For life, not for me.
They're like, wait a minute. This is something I don't want to do. The big one is iron. Iron. They hate iron. They are repelled by iron. It is like yucky, smells bad, tastes bad, feels bad. And I think that a lot of people
This is why a lot of like protection magic in general in witchcraft is based in iron, is because it comes from a lot of these folk beliefs of repelling the fae, I believe. Things like putting a horseshoe over your door or at your gate. Right. Even like one very common like house protection charm I see now is taking 2 iron nails and you tie them together in like an X or a cross and you hang it at your door. So that's like another one. Any of like the railroad nails or the railroad spikes or the coffin nails, it's because they're iron, in addition to other properties. But
yeah, and just know that if you got any huge iron things in your house, they're probably not good. I know most of my fae, they stay outside. Because I don't know what this house is built out of. I'm sure there's iron everywhere.
Keep your cast iron skillets away from the fae.
True, they hate that. They do not want that. But another thing that people don't realize have iron in it are Himalayan salt lamps.
Iron minerals.
Yeah, the iron minerals in that also keep fae away. So if you're like, why aren't the fae coming to me? And you got a Himalayan salt lamp, which it seems very fae because it's pink and it lights up the room in a very specific aura.
Get some pink selenite instead for a lamp.
Just no Himalayan salt lamps. They don't like them. And as soon as I got rid of mine, my brownie came back.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I got a brownie that patrols our little area.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I guess that's one thing too, where it's like if you're giving offerings or so on in your house and you're not seeing like the results you want, maybe take them outside. Maybe there's something preventing them from being able to interact as much as you'd like them to.
Fae will always prefer being outdoors unless they're brownies, but even then he goes and hangs out outside afterwards. but he's the only one who's
what would
brave
you
enough to come in here.
recommend for somebody who, like, let's say they accidentally pissed off the fae? So maybe they're trying to give offerings or lure, to start a relationship, but they think for some reason things seem wrong. They're feeling the tugs. Their items are going missing. What would you recommend them to do to rectify it? So that kind of protection.
You get on your knees and you beg and you say, "I'm so sorry," and you give them all the whipped cream that they want.
Let that ego go.
they can hold a grudge. That's and I think that's where like the fear mongering comes from, where like it's true. If you piss off a fae in a very specific way, it's really hard to undo it. Like they're old, and to hate you for your lifetime is one little blip for theirs. Like, it's not that deep for them, but disrespect them. And how do you not disrespect them on accident? You don't litter. You don't disrespect your surroundings. Don't listen to that. You gotta respect your surroundings. You gotta respect nature. You gotta blow kisses to flowers. And if you see someone, and like little things, like when you pick a flower, you make sure you say like, "Thank you, flower, for giving me this life and like giving me this joy for picking you and the scent of blah, blah, blah." If they hear that, they feel that, you don't have to say it out loud. Fae are very amazing and can tap into just your intention. Good intention goes a long way with Fae, but they will take advantage of you if you're too good. So you gotta stay a little vigilant as well. They don't want a people pleaser. They do want a people pleaser, actually. They want a fae pleaser. But honestly, if you piss off,
they'll take advantage of it.
Yeah, but if you piss off a fae too hard, you might just have to move. Get the hell out of there.
There's no rectifying it once it goes beyond a certain.
I don't know. Like,
so
that's
don't
a tough
fuck up
one.
too bad, guys.
No. Like, that's hard to say. I've never pissed off my fae hard enough to, but like, it's just be kind. And then leave them the fuck alone. Like, never reach out to that fae again. They will not
move
be
on to a
happy.
different one.
Yeah.
Get some allies in some other areas before you go back to the one.
Yeah. Get some good referrals from other local fae.
Yeah. some fae references.
Yeah.
So I guess to wrap this up, let's talk about working with the fae. So if somebody's okay, I'm really interested in the fae, I want to make a relationship with them, I want to work with them, how would you recommend that they start kind of getting their attention or going about this in a way that's going to be respectful and not get them in too much trouble?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I'm going to kneel to the people who live in cities. It's way harder to get in touch with fae in cities, in concrete jungles. Do they exist? Yes. Are they happy there? No. So tread carefully with city fae. From my experience, once again, I just and the number one thing that comes to mind is nature. Just in general, they love nature. They love flowers. They love beautiful, shiny things. They love crystals. Oh my gosh, give them all your crystals. If not, they're going to take them from you anyway. Many a crystal have been lost to the fae over the years.
No.
Just mysteriously gone, mysteriously missing. And then I get to my forest area and it's there. It's like, thank you. I guess you wanted my clear quartz for a few months. They love sweets. They love honey. They love whipped cream. They love sprinkles. They love dough. They love cookies.
I love dough too.
Me too, yeah. Me and Faye have a lot in common.
Any type of dough. Cookie dough, cake batter, even bread dough. I don't know, there's something about uncooked baked goods. Hits me in the core.
and I want to reiterate for the whole name thing, don't tell the fae your real name. The whole thing of that is it's very, and if you haven't seen Spirited Away, I think Spirited Away is one of the best modern fairy tales, and with a real emphasis on the word fairy. The whole film is just riddled with fae symbolism and archetypes, and it makes me think of the scene with Liu Baba taking Chihiro's name away. It's just sort of an ownership. It's a source of power.
Names have power, exactly.
Yeah. And
by having someone's name, you essentially have power over that person or that thing, right?
Yeah,
is
you
the
can
whole point. Because we hear the same thing with demons. It's demons don't want to give their name away. As soon as you have the name of a demon, then you can exercise it, right? That's the whole
Right. Yeah, it's sort of the same thing there, and not that I change anything that I would do differently. I'm glad that this is the path I've been on with all the connections I've made, but having a fake name isn't a bad thing. They're smart though. They're going to know it's not your real name, but they're going to be I'm waiting for you to say your real name.
Get you to slip up.
But working with the fae, get out in nature. They love that shit.
To go out there and bring them stuff is what I'm not getting from this.
Yeah, they love shit. They love sparkly, shiny little trinkets. They love little objects. They love delicious little cakes and little things of food. They love to watch you commune with nature. They love to watch you hug trees. They love to see you care. They want to see you care. The ones that matter do. Of course, like I said, there's tons of fae that won't give a fuck about you, which is also good. And they're going to do their own fae thing. And sometimes you're just going to be in a losing battle and be with a fae that's stubborn and doesn't want anything to do with you and keeps trying to push you out. But for the fae that are, sort of peeking around corners, curious, interested, there's definitely ways to call them in. And just also they honor and are enchanted by curiosity of all forms. They love to listen to music. Oh, they love music. Bring a nice ocarina into the forest. Bring your they love twangy little sounds. They love singing. Yeah, they love mushrooms, like I said. And so for my case, because I work mostly with forest fae, oftentimes in my experience, a lot of fae have messengers on this realm. And the ones around here use deer. So also connecting to the local wildlife that it's so intrinsic. It's hard to put into words, but I could tell right away that they were messengers and that they kind of waltzed between the veil, just like the Fae did. One of my very core memories growing up was waking up from one of my naps in the forest, and I was just surrounded by a bunch of nesting deer.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so magical.
And whenever I would go to that spot, deer would sit next to me. I'd be able to pet and hang out with all the local deer. And that to me was always the closest to the tangibility of the Fae. Mm-hmm. So they just want to see you being a good person, good to all creatures, good to, they don't even care about you being good to yourself. Just be good to others. Just put yourself out there, be kind, and be curious. And you're going to meet all kinds of Fae. You're going to meet storyteller Fae that want to tell you all about who they are, what house they come from, who they represent. You're going to meet shy Fae. You're going to meet older than you could ever imagine Fae that live who are the forest, who are the roots, who are the spirit of the quiet that you're sitting in. And there's wind fae, there's cloud fae, there's flower fae. They're everywhere, and it's so subtle. But then you tune in, and I do feel luckier knowing the fae, having them on my side, being through the trials and tribulations they put me through, which included me doubting what I was seeing and experiencing. That's a part of their magic, did I really experience that? Was that just a dream, or was that something more? And I think that just being in contact with the Fae increases your intuition, increases your appreciation for how intricate all these layers of existence really are, and just really allowing yourself to be enchanted and spirited away to this other world and their own. And I mean, there's so much we didn't even get to go over, but they have their own rules. They have their own lives. They have their own experiences and regulations. And I mean, many forms too. We talked about in the unicorn episode, our unicorn fae. My belief, they are. Yeah. Just like how I think dragon are fae, which I believe we want to do a dragon episode.
Yes, we definitely want to do a dragon episode.
So I would love to talk about dragons. I just love mythical creatures, really.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And if you're looking for fae, if you're like, is there fae here? Is it even worth beckoning them in right now? I don't know. The forest is a magical place. I don't know. The nature is magical. Nature speaks, right? And I think that a lot of the things that we take for granted, such as when a rose blooms in 3 different colors, it's like, oh, that's cool. There's something there. What?
There's something more there.
There could be something afoot. That's when you start to investigate if fae are around. Also, maybe in a more mundane way, I think the way that most fae introduce themselves to people is, why is the right shoe on the left side and your left shoe on the right side? Those little things,
things being slightly off,
yeah, just a slightly, I always use the term, everything's slightly to the left. Everything's just slightly skewed. They, like I said, they like to play upon people's imaginations, emotions, beliefs. And if a fae's poking at you, they may or may not want to be poked back. But if you do decide to poke back, be kind, be gentle, listen.
Have lots of whipped cream.
Yes, lots of whipped cream, lots of sprinkles, and listen. The fae, like the high priestess, does not speak our language generally. They speak in angel numbers. They speak in dreams. They speak in the way that a wind blows through a forest, through all the trees, and the sun shines through the tops. That's how the fae speak. It's very subtle, and it makes it's almost like I've noticed this with a lot of different spirits in general, but
it's in patterns, it's in themes, it's in, you know, seeing that one animal like a few too many times on your way into work, or, you know, whatever it might be. Just something is different, something is a little off, something feels special.
Yeah. And trust that it's special, and think about all the humans that missed those messages and took them for granted. By being open to Fae and being open to the possibility of their existence, you are just simply allowing life to be more magical.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Like, I'm a certified skeptic for sure, but one thing I'm trying to just allow myself to think more and to open up more. And like, what's the worst thing that happens? The world is a little more magical. It's a little more special. It's a little more fun. Yeah. Like, what's really like the harm in that? So allowing myself to be a little more open. And as much as it's hard for my science brain sometimes to click off, a lot of science isn't discovered yet, right? It's just like everything. Science takes time, and it takes the technology able to discover it. So I do think a lot of things are just not, we just don't have the technology to prove it yet, but it doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah, and God knows that the Fae will never allow technology to discover them. So maybe this will just be one of life's eternal mysteries.
The non-discovery of the Fae is proof that the Fae exists.
Yes, that is exactly what they want.
Well, I think that's a really good spot to kind of wrap up. Do you have any like final thoughts? Or I definitely want to do another part of this.
Yeah, we definitely should. I there's so much more I could talk about. But I think that if there's anything I could leave everyone with, if this interested you and you want to learn more and understand more about what Fae are, I recommend looking into the works of Brian Froud. Brian Froud here, if you're watching on video, that's the Oracle deck I have is by Brian Froud, the Fairies Oracle. And all I gotta say, there's two things I gotta say about him. One, he has the sight, like the way that he depicts the Fae. And when I say the sight, it's just a term, like he sees the Fae. It's just, he has the sight. And this is exactly the pictures I see in the cards are exactly what I've experienced in Fae, how wide ranging the creatures are. I'll just show two pictures here. Like, of course, we got like the Piper, which looks very close to Pan.
Very satyr, like, yeah.
Yeah. And even this is like the Topsy Turvets, and like just this strange, almost grotesque looking humanoid goblin-esque creatures.
Brian Froud worked on a lot of what you the listeners might know him from. He worked on the Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal, right?
Yes.
He helped kind of design some of the characters in there.
And it's just so clear he works with fairies. So I trust his insight more than anyone else that in the Fae world. As soon as I saw his creations, I'm like, oh, like we are kindred spirits. We see we see the same things. And the second thing is, don't let the fear mongering of Fae get to you. Is it beginner friendly? Maybe not. It takes a little bit of bravery, a little bit of courage, a little bit of like agency on your part to know that you're
have your
control.
Wits about you for sure.
Yeah, like the Fae prey upon people with low self-confidence and people who are scared, you know? So if you're willing to jump into this world with bravery, with excitement, with curiosity, then maybe there's a Fae waiting for you to hang out with you, give you some extra luck, give you some extra spirit to get through this world gone mad. But I think that's all I've got to say.
Oh, awesome. So yeah, for everybody watching, definitely check out the Unicorn Magic episode if you're interested in learning more about the Fae. That's one of the episodes we currently have. And I would definitely check out our Samhain episode where we talked about ghosts and spirits too. I feel like both of those episodes are a good complement to this one. And if you have any future questions about Fae or topics you'd like us to cover about the Fae, definitely let us know either in the comments or in on Discord. So come join us there. And yeah, I hope you guys come visit us next on our upcoming episode. Will be about the new moon or full moon in Scorpio, and it's also an eclipse. Yes, so that'll be our next episode next Thursday. It'll be streamed, or this Thursday if you're listening on Monday. And very excited for that one. And then our episode after that will be all about glamour magic, which I am
A nice
that'll be our
follow-up.
next big episode. That'll be very fun. So that'll be our streamed episode after the moon. And then I think me and Shady are going to be talking about cryptids. That's kind of sandwiched in there. And then do you remember what you and Fuchsia will be talking about?
Tea leaf readings. We're going to be doing tasseomancy.
Yeah. So fun.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that. It's been a while since I've done tea magic, so we'll have a good time with that too.
Yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. And once again, if you want to come join us on Patreon, Doogsley will have a Fae reading up for you here soon. So we hope to see you there. And until we see you guys next time, bye.
Bye-bye.